My name is Sylvia, and I'm 32 years old. Right now, I'm rushing through my morning shift at the diner, running on just 3 hours of sleep between my jobs. My husband Marcus lost his business last year, leaving us with $85,000 in debt. But I believe in him. He's trying so hard to find work, sending resumes every day. When his text comes through saying he loves me, it keeps me going. Before we start this story, I want to know where you're watching from. If you've ever sacrificed everything for someone you love, please hit that like button and subscribe. Because what I discovered changed everything. The alarm on my phone buzzes at 4:30 in the morning, and my body protests as I force myself out of bed. Marcus doesn't stir beside me. He sleeps so peacefully these days, and I'm grateful he can rest while dealing with the stress of job hunting. I slip into my waitress uniform for Mel's diner, the polyester fabric rough against my tired skin. By 5 o'clock, I'm already pouring coffee for the early morning regulars. Tom, the construction worker, who always sits at the counter, slides a $5 tip my way, even though his coffee only costs $2. He knows I need it, though he never says anything. That's the thing about Mel's diner. The customers aren't wealthy, but they understand struggle. My feet are already aching by 8 in the morning, but I keep smiling. Table 6 wants extra syrup. Table 12 needs their eggs redone. The cook Miguel shoots me sympathetic looks when I relay another complicated order. We've worked together for 8 months now, ever since I picked up this job to help with the bills. At 11, I clock out and practically run to my beat-up Honda Civic. I have exactly 45 minutes to get to Save Mart for my cashier shift. No time for lunch, just a protein bar I eat while driving. The radio plays some cheerful pop song about living your best life, and I turn it off. Save Mart is a different kind of exhausting. Standing in one place for 6 hours, scanning items, dealing with customers who treat you like you're invisible, or worse, like you're stupid. Today, a woman with a designer handbag argues about a 50-cent coupon that expired yesterday. I apologize and manually adjust the price, knowing my manager will lecture me later. But I can't afford to lose this job. My supervisor, Janet, is only 23, fresh out of college. She likes to remind me about efficiency metrics and customer satisfaction scores. I nod and agree with everything she says. She has no idea I'm 9 years older than her, that I have a bachelor's degree in marketing gathering dust somewhere. This is temporary, I tell myself. Once Marcus finds work, things will go back to normal. During my 15-minute break, I check my phone. Marcus has sent another message. Interview prep going well. Thanks for believing in me, babe. My heart swells with love for him. He's such a good man, and this situation is killing him inside. I can see it in the way his shoulders slump when he thinks I'm not looking. I remember when we met 5 years ago at an art gallery opening downtown. He was confident then, wearing a sharp suit, talking passionately about digital marketing trends. He approached me by a modern sculpture, made some joke about how it looked like his breakfast cereal, and we laughed for 20 minutes straight. He was magnetic, ambitious, full of dreams about building his own agency. Our wedding was small, but perfect. Just 30 guests in my parents' backyard. Marcus had tears in his eyes when I walked down the makeshift aisle between the rose bushes. He promised to build us an empire, to give me everything I deserved. I told him I just wanted him, but he insisted he'd make me proud. For 3 years he did. His marketing company grew from just him and a laptop to a team of 8 employees. We moved from our cramped apartment to a nice 2-bedroom condo downtown. We talked about starting a family, maybe buying a house in the suburbs. Friday nights were for expensive restaurants and weekend trips to wine country. Then Johnson Corporation, his biggest client, representing 60% of his revenue, pulled their contract. They decided to bring marketing in-house. Marcus scrambled to find new clients, but word got out that he'd lost Johnson. In our industry, perception is everything. Other clients got nervous and jumped ship. Within 3 months, he had to let everyone go and close the office. The debt piled up fast. Business loans, credit cards he'd used to keep things afloat, the lease on the office space he couldn't break. $85,000. The number still makes my stomach churn. We sold his BMW first, then my Lexus. My engagement ring went to a pawn shop, though I told my family I was getting it cleaned. We moved from the condo to a studio apartment in a rough neighborhood where police sirens are our nightly lullaby. Marcus fell into a deep depression. For weeks, he wouldn't get out of bed. I held him while he sobbed, telling me he was a failure, that I should leave him. I kissed his forehead and promised we'd get through it together. That's what marriage means, right? For better or worse. That's when I started looking for work. Any work. My marketing degree meant nothing without recent experience, and explaining a 3-year gap while being a supportive wife didn't impress recruiters. So I took what I could get. Mel's Diner hired me on the spot. SaveMart needed seasonal help that became permanent. The night cleaning job at the Fitzgerald office building came last when we got an eviction notice. By 6:30 in the evening, I'm changing into my cleaning uniform in the SaveMart bathroom. My third job starts at 7. The Fitzgerald building is 20 floors of law firms and financial advisors who leave their offices like crime scenes. Coffee spilled on carpets, food crumbs ground into keyboards, trash cans overflowing with confidential documents they're too lazy to shred. I work alone on floors 15 through 20. The building is eerily quiet, except for the hum of computers left running and the occasional ding of the elevator. Sometimes I pretend I'm one of the lawyers, sitting behind their massive desks, making decisions that matter. Then I remember I'm here to empty their trash and clean their private bathrooms. By the time I get home at 2:30 in the morning, Marcus is deep asleep. There's evidence he's been active, though. Dishes in the sink from his dinner. His laptop closed on the coffee table, several printed job listings scattered around. He's trying, I remind myself. The job market is brutal right now. I shower quietly, letting the hot water ease my aching muscles. Tomorrow, I'll do it all again. 3 jobs, 17 hours, all for us. I slip into bed beside Marcus, and he unconsciously pulls me close. Even in sleep, he needs me. And despite everything, I need him too. This has been our life for 18 months now. Some days are harder than others. When I see former colleagues on social media traveling to Europe or celebrating promotions, I have to quickly scroll past. When my mother calls and asks how we're doing, I lie and say everything's great. When my body screams for rest, I think about Marcus and push through. He's been better lately, more optimistic. He shaves regularly now, keeps a routine. Every morning when I leave for Mel's, he's already at his laptop searching job boards. He's networked with old colleagues, attended virtual seminars, even started learning new programming languages to make himself more marketable. He sends out at least 10 applications a day, customizing each cover letter. The rejection emails hurt him, I can tell, but he keeps trying. Last week he had 3 phone interviews. None led to second rounds. But he's getting closer. He just needs one company to give him a chance to prove himself again. I believe in him. I have to. Because if I don't, if I let doubt creep in, then what has all this sacrifice been for? Every blister on my feet. Every rude customer endured, every hour of sleep lost. It's all an investment in our future. When Marcus gets back on his feet, he'll take care of me the way I'm taking care of him now. That's what partners do. Sometimes when I'm cleaning those empty offices at midnight, I think about the life we're going to have once this is over. Maybe we'll take that trip to Italy we always talked about. Maybe we'll finally start that family. Maybe we'll look back on this time and be grateful for how it made us stronger. For now, though, I focus on today, one shift at a time, one paycheck at a time, one debt payment at a time. The credit card companies are ruthless, calling constantly. The minimum payments barely touch the principal, but at least we're not defaulting. Our credit is shot, but it can be rebuilt. Marcus handles the bills now since he's home. He's created spreadsheets, negotiated with creditors, even got a few to reduce the interest rates. He shows me the numbers, sometimes proud of how he's managing our disaster. I smile and tell him he's doing amazing, even though looking at those balances makes me want to cry. We eat a lot of ramen noodles and peanut butter sandwiches. Grocery shopping happens at the discount store, buying dented cans and expired bread. Date nights are watching free movies on his laptop, sharing a bag of microwave popcorn. It's not the life we planned, but we're together. When I'm feeling especially low, Marcus seems to sense it. He'll massage my feet after my shifts, run me a hot bath with the last of the bubble bath from better times, tell me jokes until I laugh despite my exhaustion. He calls me his warrior, his angel, his everything. He promises this is temporary, that soon he'll be taking care of me the way I deserve. I hold on to those promises like life preservers in a storm, because without them, without him, what do I have? Just 3 dead-end jobs and a body that's aging faster than it should. But with him with us, there's hope for something better. Tonight, as I lie in bed at 3 a.m, Marcus stirring beside me, I allow myself a moment of pure honesty. I'm tired, not just physically, but soul tired. The kind of exhaustion that sleep can't fix. But tomorrow I'll get up and do it again. For him. For us. For the future we're building one minimum wage hour at a time. Tuesday started like any other day in my endless cycle of work. But by noon, I could feel something was off. At Mel's, a customer accused me of bringing the wrong order, even though I'd written it down exactly as she'd said it. She demanded to speak to the manager, claimed I was incompetent, said people like me shouldn't be allowed to work with the public. The manager, Steve, made me apologize, even though we both knew I hadn't done anything wrong. The woman left without tipping, of course. I held it together until I got to the bathroom, where I let myself cry for exactly 2 minutes. Then I washed my face, reapplied my drugstore lipstick, and went back to my tables. The show must go on, and I had bills to pay. At SaveMart, the register system crashed right in the middle of the afternoon rush. Somehow this was my fault, according to Janet, who decided to lecture me about proper handling of equipment in front of a line of annoyed customers. When the system came back online, the drawer was $50 short. Nobody could explain why, but since I was the last one to use it, the shortage would come out of my paycheck. $50 might not sound like much to most people, but when you're counting every penny, when that $50 is the difference between keeping the lights on or sitting in the dark, it's everything. I nodded and accepted the deduction, knowing that arguing would only risk my job. By the time I got home for my brief break between SaveMart and the cleaning job I was running on empty, I expected to find Marcus at his laptop working on applications. Instead, he was on the couch, game controller in hand, shooting zombies on the television screen. The apartment was a mess. Dishes from what looked like multiple meals cluttered the coffee table. His pajamas from yesterday were still on the bathroom floor. The job listings I'd printed for him that morning were exactly where I'd left them untouched. I tried to keep my voice light when I asked about his day. Had he sent out any applications? Any responses from last week's submissions? He paused his game with obvious irritation, sighing like I was being unreasonable. The market's really tough right now, Sylvia. You wouldn't understand how complex this networking thing is. It's not like the old days where you just send a resume. There's politics involved, timing strategy. I sat down beside him, trying to ignore how my feet throbbed. I know it's hard, honey. I was just wondering if maybe that recruiter from LinkedIn got back to you. He tossed the controller aside, running his hands through his hair. Hair that looked freshly styled, I noticed, with product that we definitely couldn't afford. God, can you just give me some space? I'm under so much pressure here. You think it's easy sitting in this apartment all day, knowing I'm a failure, knowing my wife is killing herself because I can't provide. The manipulation was so smooth, I almost didn't recognize it. He'd turned my simple question into an attack on him, made himself the victim. I found myself apologizing, comforting him, promising I understood. I even offered to make him dinner before my next shift, which he accepted with a grudging nod. While cooking his favorite pasta with the last of our marinara sauce, I noticed something in the trash that made me pause. A shopping bag from Nordstrom. Inside, a receipt for a $200 shirt. My hands shook as I held it. When I asked him about it very gently, he had an answer ready. Oh, that David from my old company gave it to me. He felt bad about everything that happened. Said I needed to look presentable for interviews. You know how important first impressions are in our industry. It made sense. David had always been a good friend to Marcus, and he was right about needing to look professional. I threw the receipt away and served dinner, pushing down the weird feeling in my stomach. But there were other things. The cologne I smelled on his shirt when I did laundry, something expensive and unfamiliar. The way he'd started working out at home, doing push-ups and sit-ups, caring about his appearance in a way he hadn't in months. The new watch, he said, was a loan from his brother. When Sunday came around, I suggested we spend the evening together. Maybe walk around the free botanical garden, or just watch a movie at home. I missed him. Missed us. But he shook his head, looking apologetic. I've got this networking thing, former colleagues meeting up at a coffee shop to share leads. It could be really important, babe. You understand, right? Of course I understood. I always understood. That was my role now, the understanding wife. The supportive wife. The wife who worked 3 jobs and never complained while her husband went to networking events on Sunday nights wearing cologne and new shirts. I kissed him goodbye and went to my cleaning job early. The empty offices felt especially lonely that night. I found myself staring at a family photo on someone's desk. A perfect little unit smiling at the camera. They looked so happy, so certain of their place in the world. While vacuuming the 20th floor, I ran into Tom, the security guard. He was a nice older man who always asked how I was doing. Tonight he looked concerned. You okay, Sylvia? You look tired. I almost laughed. Tired didn't begin to cover it. Just a long day, Tom. How's your family? Good, good. Listen, I probably shouldn't say anything, but I saw your husband the other night. Thursday, I think. Downtown at that new cocktail bar, Emerald Room. Looked like he was having a good time. My heart stopped. Thursday night, Marcus had said he was in an online interview that ran late. I managed to smile and thank Tom for his concern, making up something about Marcus celebrating a potential job lead. The rest of my shift passed in a blur. My mind kept circling back to Tom's words. The Emerald Room was expensive, the kind of place that required reservations and had a dress code. What kind of networking happened there? When I got home that night, Marcus was already asleep, or pretending to be. I stood in our tiny bathroom looking at myself in the harsh fluorescent light. When had I gotten so old? The bags under my eyes seemed permanent now. My hands were rough from cleaning chemicals. My hair, which I used to get highlighted every 6 weeks now, showed 3 inches of dark roots. I thought about Thursday night, about the Emerald Room, about cologne and new shirts. Then I thought about the $50 docked from my pay. The customer who'd humiliated me the 17 hours I'd worked that day. I thought about trust and love and sacrifice. But when I crawled into bed and Marcus pulled me close, murmuring my name in his sleep, I pushed all those thoughts away. I was being paranoid. Stress was making me imagine things. Marcus loved me. He was trying his best. We were a team. I had to believe that. Because if I didn't, if I let myself really think about what might be happening, I would shatter into pieces too small to put back together. The next morning, I left him a note saying I loved him and believed in him. I made his coffee and left it in the thermal mug he liked. I printed out new job listings I'd found during my break at SaveMart. This was love, I told myself as I headed to Mel's for another double shift. This was what marriage looked like when things got tough. You held on, you trusted, you sacrificed. And eventually it would all be worth it. But doubt once planted has a way of growing, and mine was starting to spread roots. Wednesday afternoon, I was restocking shelves at SaveMart when I heard a familiar laugh. Turning the corner, I almost collided with Meredith, my best friend from my marketing days. We hadn't seen each other in over a year, not since I'd started making excuses to avoid social events we couldn't afford. Her face went through several expressions when she saw me. Surprise confusion, then a kind of horrified pity when she noticed my SaveMart vest. "Sylvia, oh my God, what are you doing here?" I forced a bright smile, the one I'd perfected for customers. "Just helping out during busy season. You know how it is." She didn't buy it. Meredith had always been able to see through my bullshit. "Can we talk? I have time. Let's grab coffee." I only had a 15-minute break, but I couldn't say no to the concern in her eyes. We sat at the small cafe inside SaveMart Me, with my water bottle, her with a $6 latte she insisted on buying for me too. "Talk to me," she said simply. "What's really going on?" The whole story poured out. Marcus's business failure, the debt, my 3 jobs. I tried to make it sound noble, like we were a team conquering adversity together, but Meredith's expression grew increasingly troubled. "Sylvia, I saw Marcus last week. At Providence, that new steakhouse downtown. He was with some people I didn't recognize, but they were definitely celebrating something. Bottles of wine, the works." My stomach twisted. It must have been a business dinner. He's been networking a lot, trying to find the right opportunity. At a place where steaks start at $60. I didn't have an answer for that. Marcus had told me he was at a virtual career workshop that night. I remembered because I'd rushed home between jobs to make him dinner, only to find a note saying he'd grabbed something quick and was on a Zoom call in the bedroom. Meredith reached across the table and took my hand. "Honey, when's the last time Marcus actually went to a real interview? Not networking, not virtual meeting, but an actual interview." I tried to think. He talked about interviews all the time. But when was the last time he'd worn his suit? When was the last time he'd asked me to help him prepare the way he used to? When was the last time he'd come home with that specific exhaustion that comes from being on for hours? "He's trying," I said weakly. "The market is just really tough right now." Meredith squeezed my hand. "The market is actually pretty hot right now. My company has been desperately trying to fill positions for months. Has he applied there? I could put in a word." I promised to ask him, knowing I wouldn't. Marcus had pride. He wouldn't want my friends helping him. Or at least that's what he'd told me the last time I'd suggested reaching out to my network. After Meredith left, extracting a promise that I'd call her soon, I went back to my register. But my mind wasn't on scanning groceries. It was piecing together a puzzle I didn't want to complete. The gym membership. He said his brother gifted him, but I'd never seen him carry a gym bag. The haircuts, every 2 weeks, when we could barely afford groceries. The way he'd password protected his laptop recently, saying it had sensitive job search information. The nights he came home with the faint smell of perfume that wasn't mine. That evening, I got home to find Marcus getting ready to go out. He was wearing the Nordstrom shirt and a pair of shoes I'd never seen before. "Where are you heading?" I tried to keep my voice casual. "Remember that headhunter I told you about? We're meeting for drinks to discuss a potential position. Could go late, so don't wait up." He kissed my forehead, a brief, distracted gesture, and was gone before I could ask which headhunter, which company, which bar. I stood in our empty apartment, still in my Save Mart uniform, and felt something crack inside me. I called in sick to my cleaning job. For the first time in 18 months, I couldn't do it. Instead, I sat on our threadbare couch and opened Instagram on my phone. I rarely used social media anymore, too painful to see everyone else's perfect lives. But tonight, I had a purpose. Marcus didn't post much, but his friends did. I scrolled through Derek's stories, one of his old colleagues, who still treated him like nothing had changed. There it was from 3 hours ago, a boomerang of clinking beer glasses at some upscale bar. In the background, partially visible, was Marcus, laughing, relaxed, not a care in the world. The timestamp showed 11 p.m. on a Thursday, the night he'd said he was doing an online interview. I kept scrolling, finding more. Marcus at a party 2 weeks ago when he'd said he was at a job fair. Marcus at a basketball game last month when he'd told me he was meeting with a career counselor. Always in the background of other people's posts, like he'd told them not to tag him. My phone buzzed. A text from Marcus. Meeting going great. This could be the one. Love you. I stared at those words. Love you. Did he? Or was I just convenient? The woman who paid the bills, who never questioned too hard, who believed every lie because the alternative was too painful to consider. I thought about calling him out, confronting him with what I'd found. But I needed more than Instagram stories and suspicious receipts. I needed to be sure. Because once I opened that door, there was no closing it again. The next day, I did something I'd never done before. I followed him. Called in sick to Mel's saying I had food poisoning. Then I waited outside our apartment building in my car, watching. At 10 a.m., Marcus left wearing jeans and a t-shirt. Not interview clothes. He walked to the subway station and I followed at a distance. He took the train downtown, emerging near the financial district. But instead of going toward any office buildings, he went to a small park where food trucks gathered. A woman was waiting for him, young, maybe 25, with long blonde hair and a laugh that carried across the park. They hugged longer than friends would and found a bench in the sun. I watched from behind a tree as they ate lunch together, her hand occasionally touching his arm, him playing with her hair. They looked like a couple. They looked like what Marcus and I used to look like back when we had time for lunch dates and casual affection. Back when I wasn't too exhausted to be touched, and he wasn't too guilty to meet my eyes. After an hour, they parted ways. She went back toward the office buildings, and Marcus headed to, of all places, a movie theater. He bought a single ticket and went inside. To kill time during the day, while I thought he was job hunting, I sat in my car and sobbed. Not pretty tears, but ugly, body-shaking sobs that felt like they were ripping me apart. 18 months of sacrifice, of believing, of trusting, and for what? So he could date younger women and watch matinee movies while I destroyed my body working 3 jobs. But even then, even with what I'd seen, part of me made excuses. Maybe she was a recruiter. Maybe the movie was a mental health break. Maybe I was misunderstanding everything. The heart is amazing at protecting itself from truths too painful to accept. That night when Marcus came home full of stories about his productive day of applications and networking, I smiled and nodded. When he showed me job listings he was excited about, I encouraged him. When he pulled me close in bed, I let him even though his touch now felt like betrayal. I needed more time, more evidence, more strength. Because leaving Marcus wouldn't just mean ending my marriage. It would mean admitting that everything I'd sacrificed had been for nothing, that I'd been a fool. That the love I'd thought was worth 3 jobs and 17-hour days had been one-sided all along. So I kept working, kept smiling, kept pretending. But I also started paying attention, started documenting, started preparing for a truth I wasn't quite ready to face. It was Sunday when I accidentally discovered Marcus's other Instagram account. I'd borrowed his tablet to check my email since my phone was dead and Instagram was still logged in. But it wasn't his main account. This one was under a different name, Marcus Living 404, and it painted a very different picture of his life. There were photos at restaurants I couldn't afford, clubs I'd never heard of, beaches we hadn't visited. In every photo, he looked happy, carefree, successful. The captions were worse. Living my best life. Success is the best revenge. Surround yourself with people who see your worth. The comments were from women mostly. Flirty exchanges, inside jokes, plans to meet up. One particular thread made my blood run cold. A woman named Jessica had written, "Last night was amazing. Can't wait for next weekend." Marcus had replied, "Just need to handle some things at home first. You know how it is." Handle some things at home. Was that what I was? Something to handle? I screenshotted everything before logging out. My hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped the tablet. This wasn't misunderstanding or paranoia. This was proof. But the universe wasn't done with revelations. Later that day, while doing laundry, I found a credit card statement in his jacket pocket. A card I didn't know existed in his name only. The balance was $15,000. $15,000 of clubs, restaurants, hotels, and ATM withdrawals while I was eating peanut butter sandwiches for dinner. I sat on our bathroom floor holding that statement and laughed. Actually laughed. Because what else could I do? The absurdity of it all was overwhelming. Here I was destroying myself to pay off his business debts, while he was creating new ones, funding a lifestyle I wasn't part of. Monday evening, I ran into Tony Marcus's old roommate from before we got married. He was picking up groceries at Save Mart, and his face lit up when he saw me. "Sylvia, how are you guys doing? I keep seeing Marcus's posts about living it up. Good to see him back on his feet after the business thing." I kept my expression neutral. "Oh, what posts?" Tony pulled out his phone, showing me Marcus's Facebook. Another account I didn't know about. The most recent post was from Saturday. "Blessed to have people who support my vision. Big things coming. To everyone who doubted me, watch this space." The comments were congratulating him on some new venture, asking about investment opportunities, praising his resilience. One comment stood out from someone named Brad. "Bro, you were right about having someone to handle the boring stuff while you focus on what matters. Genius." Marcus had replied, "Sometimes you just need the right support system. Not everyone can be a visionary." The right support system. The boring stuff. Not everyone can be a visionary. I thanked Tony and finished my shift in a daze. Everything was clicking into place now. Marcus wasn't looking for a job. He'd never been looking for a job. He was living off me while building some fantasy life, where he was still successful, still important, still the man he used to be. When I got home that night, Marcus was cooking dinner. Actually cooking, which he only did when he wanted something. The apartment smelled like garlic and basil, and he'd even set the table with our good plates. "What's the occasion?" I asked, trying to sound pleased rather than suspicious. "Can't a man cook for his amazing wife?" He pulled me in for a kiss that felt like performance art. "I wanted to talk to you about something." Here it comes, I thought. He needs something. Over dinner, he pitched his idea. A new business venture, something about cryptocurrency consulting. He just needed a small investment to get started. Maybe I could pick up some extra shifts, or we could take out a loan in my name since his credit was shot. I listened to him spin his web of promises and potential. How this time would be different. How he'd learned from his mistakes. How we'd be rich within a year if I just believed in him one more time. How much? I asked. Just 10,000 to start. I know it sounds like a lot, but I promise this is it. This is our ticket out. $10,000. I thought about the $15,000 credit card bill the woman named Jessica, the Instagram accounts, the lies upon lies upon lies. I'll think about it, I said, and he beamed like he'd already won. That night, while he slept beside me, I made my decision. Not just to leave, but to expose everything first. He'd taken 18 months of my life, my health, my dignity. The least I deserved was the truth. I started my plan the next morning. First, I opened my own bank account at a different bank. Then I changed my direct deposit for all 3 jobs. I'd need money for a lawyer and a new place to live. I also started recording. Every conversation where he lied about job hunting, every time he asked for money, every manipulation and gaslighting attempt. Arizona was a one-party consent state for recordings. I'd checked. The hardest part was pretending everything was normal. Kissing him goodbye each morning, asking about his day each night, playing the supportive wife while knowing what he really thought of me. But I'd gotten good at suffering in silence. A few more weeks wouldn't kill me. I researched divorce lawyers at the library during my breaks. Found one who worked with domestic financial abuse cases who offered free consultations. Maria Martinez had a reputation for protecting women from predatory spouses. I made an appointment for the following week. I also reached out to my support system. Meredith, who immediately offered her couch if I needed it. My sister in Portland, who said she'd fly out the moment I gave the word. Even Tom, the security guard, who'd noticed something was wrong and slipped me the number for a women's shelter, just in case. The plan was simple. Gather evidence, protect my assets, file for divorce, and leave. Clean and surgical, like removing a tumor. But life rarely goes according to plan. Friday came with an unexpected gift. I'd been feeling sick all morning at Mel's, dizzy and nauseous. Steve, the manager, noticed me swaying at the coffee station and insisted I go home. "You look like death, Sylvia. Go rest. We'll manage." I protested, thinking about the lost wages, but he was firm. So at 11:30 in the morning, when I should have been serving lunch rushes, and Marcus thought I was working until 6, I drove home. I knew something was different the moment I reached our floor. Expensive men's shoes sat outside our door, definitely not Marcus's. From inside came laughter, male voices carrying through the thin walls. I stood frozen in the hallway, key in hand, listening. My hand trembled as I slowly inserted the key into the lock, turning it as quietly as possible. The door opened silently, and I stepped into our apartment like a ghost. The voices were clearer now, coming from the living room. Marcus and another man, someone I didn't recognize from his voice. I pressed myself against the wall in the tiny entryway, barely breathing. Marcus had his phone on speaker, and they were having a 3-way conversation with someone else. The stranger in our apartment was laughing about something, a harsh, ugly sound. Then Marcus spoke, and his words changed everything. "Bro, you have no idea how easy this has been. My wife is literally working 3 jobs to pay off my debts while I'm out here living my best life." The stranger responded, "That's cold, man. She doesn't suspect anything." "Are you kidding? Sylvia's so desperate to believe I'm trying that she buys everything I tell her. Yesterday I said I had an interview and I spent the day at the beach with Jessica." The voice on speaker laughed. "Didn't you say Jessica thinks you're divorced?" "Yeah, told her my ex took everything in the divorce, that's why I'm rebuilding. Meanwhile, my actual wife is killing herself at minimum wage jobs, thinking she's helping me get back on my feet." "That's genius," the stranger said. "But don't you feel bad?" Marcus's laugh was nothing like the warm sound I'd fallen in love with. This was cruel, mocking. Feel bad for using what's available to me. Look, Sylvia was always meant to be a support role. She's not smart enough to be a main player. 32 years old, and she still believes in fairy tales about love and partnership. My legs nearly gave out. I gripped the wall to stay upright. The speakerphone voice chimed in. How long you gonna keep this up? Until the debts are paid, maybe 6 more months. Then I'll tragically discover we've grown apart, divorce her ass, and move on with someone younger and hotter. Jessica's 23 and her dad owns a tech company. That's my real future. What about Sylvia? The stranger asked. What about her? She'll be fine. Women like her always land on their feet. She'll find some other loser to take care of and convince herself it's love. It's actually kind of pathetic how she texts me these supportive messages every day, talking about believing in me and our future together. They all laughed. 3 men laughing about my pain, my sacrifice, my stupidity. The best part, Marcus continued, is she actually thanked me last week. Thanked me. Said she was grateful I hadn't given up, that my perseverance inspired her. I almost laughed in her face. You're a savage, the speakerphone voice said admiringly. I'm a survivor, Marcus corrected. While she's scrubbing toilets at night, I'm building connections with people who matter. I've got 3 different women thinking they're special, a whole network, believing I'm some tragic entrepreneur recovering from betrayal, and a wife paying all my bills. That's not savage, that's strategic. The stranger whistled. And she has no idea. None. Yesterday she saw a credit card bill, and I convinced her it was a mistake, that someone had stolen my identity. She actually offered to work extra shifts to help me deal with the stress of identity theft. You can't make this shit up. What happens if she finds out before you're ready? Marcus's voice turned cold. She won't. Sylvia's too tired to think straight, too invested in the fantasy to see reality, and too proud to admit she's been played. Plus, where's she gonna go? She has nothing without me. I am literally the only good thing in her pathetic life. Personal slave, the speaker voice said. That's what you called her last week? If the shoe fits, Marcus replied. Though slaves usually know they're slaves. Sylvia thinks she's a partner. It's almost too easy. Sometimes I test how far I can push it. Last month I told her I needed a new laptop for job applications, and she sold her grandmother's ring to buy it. I use it to watch Netflix while she's at work. I couldn't listen anymore. Quietly, carefully, I backed out of the apartment, closing the door silently behind me. I made it to the stairwell before my legs gave out completely. I sat on the concrete steps, shaking violently, my phone pressed to my ear. The recording was still running. I'd captured everything. 20 minutes later, I was in my car, calling Maria Martinez's office. Her secretary heard the urgency in my voice and somehow got me a same-day emergency appointment. By 2 p.m., I was sitting in a law office, playing the recording for a woman whose face grew increasingly horrified with each word. This is financial and emotional abuse, Maria said firmly. We can file for divorce immediately and request an emergency order freezing joint assets. Do you have somewhere safe to stay? I can figure that out. Good. Now let's talk about what you're entitled to. The next 3 days were a blur of preparation. I moved my important documents to a safety deposit box. I found a tiny studio apartment in a different neighborhood, cheaper than our current place, available immediately. I copied every financial record, every text message, every piece of evidence I could find. Marcus had gotten lazy, leaving his tablet unlocked more often. I discovered the full extent of his deception. Dating profiles, multiple Instagram accounts, showcasing a lifestyle funded by my labor emails to women, promising them futures built on my destruction. The cryptocurrency business was fake, just another story to extract more money from me. I also found messages between him and his friends where he detailed his manipulation tactics, how he'd learned to cry on cue to trigger my nurturing instincts, how he'd studied my insecurities to exploit them, how he kept me exhausted so I couldn't think clearly enough to question him. One message stood out. The key is to make them think leaving would be their failure, not yours. Sylvia would rather die than admit she made a mistake marrying me. He was right about one thing. I had been too proud. But not anymore. Tuesday morning arrived like any other. I kissed Marcus goodbye, told him I loved him, went to my shift at Mel's. But I'd arranged everything. Meredith and my sister would meet me at the apartment at 5 p.m. The divorce papers were ready. My new apartment was waiting. At 4:30, I texted Marcus that I was coming home early with a surprise. He texted back with a heart emoji, probably thinking I'd gotten him something nice. I arrived at exactly 5 p.m. with my support team. Marcus was on the couch, PlayStation controller in hand, wearing designer sweatpants I'd never seen before. His face went through several expressions when he saw us. Confusion, annoyance, then a slow, dawning fear as I placed the divorce papers on the coffee table. "What is this?" He tried to sound angry, but his voice cracked. "It's over, Marcus." "Baby, what are you talking about?" "Is this about money? I told you the crypto thing is going to pay off. Just trust me a little longer." I pulled out my phone and hit play on the recording. His own voice filled the apartment, calling me stupid, pathetic, his personal slave. With each word, the color drained from his face. That's not... You recorded me without permission." One-party consent state. Maria had armed me with the words. "Everything I recorded is legal and admissible." He switched tactics immediately, the tears coming just as he'd described in his messages. "Sylvia, please, I was just talking trash with the guys. You know how men are. I didn't mean any of it. You're my everything." "I'm your nothing. You made that very clear. We can work through this. Couples therapy. I'll get a job tomorrow, I swear. Please, baby, don't throw away 5 years. I already wasted 18 months. I'm not wasting another minute." He dropped to his knees, full performance mode now. "I'll die without you. I'll kill myself. Is that what you want?" My sister stepped forward. "We've already called the police for a wellness check. If you're truly suicidal, they'll help you. But Sylvia is leaving." While he ranted and pleaded and threatened, I packed my clothes and essentials. Everything fit in 2 suitcases and a box. 5 years of marriage, and I could carry my whole life in one trip. As I headed for the door, Marcus grabbed my arm. For the first time since I'd met him, I saw real fear in his eyes. "You can't do this. You can't leave me with nothing. The debts, the bills, I can't handle them alone." I pulled my arm free. "That sounds like a you problem. Maybe Jessica's dad can help." His face went white. "How did you—" "I know everything, Marcus. Every lie, every woman, every dollar you stole from me while I was destroying my body to support you. It's all in the divorce filing. My lawyer will be in touch." The last thing I heard as I walked out was him screaming my name, then switching to cursing, then back to pleading, the human manipulation playbook in full display. My sister drove while I sat in the passenger seat numb. Meredith followed in her car with my things. We went to my new studio apartment, a tiny space that was entirely mine. No memories, no lies, just 4 walls and a chance to start over. That night I slept for 12 hours straight, the deepest, most peaceful sleep I'd had in 18 months. Because for the first time in so long, I wasn't sleeping next to my enemy. 6 months have passed since I walked out of that apartment and out of Marcus's web of lies. The divorce was finalized 3 months ago. The judge, after reviewing the evidence of financial abuse and fraud, ruled that Marcus was solely responsible for his business debts. He'd tried to claim I should pay half since we were married when he incurred them, but the recordings of him admitting to hiding assets and creating secret debt destroyed his credibility. I'm down to 2 jobs now. I was promoted to shift supervisor at Mel's Diner, which came with a raise and health insurance. Steve, the manager who'd sent me home that fateful day, turned out to be a good friend. He'd apparently suspected something was wrong for months, but didn't know how to help. My body is slowly recovering. I can sleep 6 hours a night now instead of 3. The chronic pain in my feet has faded. I've gained back some of the weight I'd lost from stress and barely eating. When I look in the mirror, I'm starting to recognize myself again. The support group for emotional and financial abuse survivors has been a lifeline. Every Wednesday evening, I sit in a circle with 8 other women who understand what it's like to love someone who sees you as a resource to exploit. We share our stories, our victories, our setbacks. Last week I told them about the recording and they applauded. Not for the revenge, but for the courage it took to face the truth. I ran into Marcus 2 weeks ago at a grocery store. I almost didn't recognize him at first. He'd gained weight. His designer clothes replaced with ill-fitting jeans and a stained t-shirt. He was buying generic beer and instant noodles, counting change at the register. When he saw me, his whole demeanor changed. The shoulders straightened, the charming smile appeared. He approached me like we were old friends, not like he'd called me his personal slave. "Sylvia, you look great. Really great." "Thank you." I kept my voice neutral, already looking for an exit. "Listen, I wanted to apologize. I was going through a dark time. Depression, you know. It made me say things I didn't mean." "Okay." He shifted, clearly expecting more. When I didn't offer it, he continued. "I'm doing better now. Got a job at a call center. It's not much, but it's honest work. I'm really trying to turn my life around." "Good for you. Maybe we could get coffee sometime as friends. I really miss talking to you." "No, thank you." His mask slipped for just a second, showing the anger underneath. Then the smile returned. "Come on, Sylvia. Don't you believe in forgiveness? Second chances. I believe in learning from experience. Have a nice day, Marcus." I walked away, leaving him standing there with his instant noodles and cheap beer. I didn't feel triumph or satisfaction, just a kind of distant pity. He was living the life he'd pretended to escape, while I was finally free from the performance of being his savior. The women from the support group had warned me about this, how they often try to come back when their new supplies dry up. Jessica had dumped him within a month when she realized he was broke. The other women disappeared when the money did. His friends, the ones who'd laughed about his personal slave, wanted nothing to do with him once he couldn't pay for drinks. But that wasn't my problem anymore. I'm taking night classes now, updating my marketing skills. The professor, a woman who'd also restarted her career after divorce, has become a mentor. She thinks I could be ready for a real marketing job within a year. Not executive level, not yet, but something with a salary and regular hours and dignity. There's even someone new in my life. Robert works at the credit union where I opened my new accounts. He noticed me coming in exhausted after shifts and started keeping the branch open a few extra minutes so I could make it after work. We've had coffee twice, dinner once. He knows my story and hasn't run away. Last week he said something that made me cry. We were talking about past relationships, and he said, "I can't imagine anyone looking at you and seeing anything other than a treasure to cherish." A treasure to cherish. Not a resource to exploit. Not a personal slave. Not a support role in someone else's performance. A treasure. I'm not ready for anything serious yet. The wounds are still too fresh, the trust too fragile. But it's nice to remember that good men exist. Men who work hard, who see partnership as actual partnership, who would be horrified at the thought of someone they love suffering while they played video games. The debt is still there, of course. Even though the court assigned it to Marcus, the creditors don't care about divorce decrees. They call sometimes, and I refer them to my lawyer. Marcus has apparently filed for bankruptcy, which means the debt might eventually be discharged. Another mess he's walked away from while others clean up. But I'm building something new. My credit score is slowly improving. I have $800 in savings, the first time I've had any savings in 2 years. I can buy fresh vegetables now instead of just ramen. Small victories, but victories nonetheless. Sometimes late at night in my tiny studio, I think about the woman I was 18 months ago, so desperate to save my marriage that I couldn't see I was the only one in it. So convinced that love meant sacrifice that I didn't notice I was the only one sacrificing. So afraid of being seen as a failure that I accepted being treated as less than human. I don't hate that woman. She was doing her best with what she knew. She believed in love and commitment and partnership. Those aren't bad things to believe in. She just believed in the wrong person. The other day, someone at the support group asked if I regret marrying Marcus. It's a complicated question. I regret the pain, the humiliation, the months of exhaustion and degradation. I regret not seeing the signs sooner, not valuing myself more, not recognizing manipulation disguised as love. But I don't regret learning what I'm capable of surviving. I don't regret discovering my own strength. I don't regret the hard-won wisdom that no relationship is worth losing yourself. Marcus thought he was using me, but in the end, I used the experience to become someone he could never break again. He's still the same person, still looking for someone to con, still believing the world owes him everything while he gives nothing. But I'm transformed. I work 2 jobs now because I choose to not, because someone's survival depends on it. Every dollar I earn is mine to save or spend or invest in my future. Every decision I make is based on what's best for me, not what keeps someone else comfortable. Last week I helped a new woman in the support group, Sarah. She'd just discovered her husband had been gambling away her paychecks while pretending to be disabled. She sobbed through the entire meeting, saying she felt so stupid, so used, so worthless. I told her what someone told me 6 months ago. You're not stupid for believing someone who said they loved you. You're not worthless because someone treated you as worthless. You're not weak for staying as long as you did. You're strong for leaving when you did. The manipulation, the gaslighting, the emotional abuse. It's designed to keep you confused and compliant. It's designed to make you doubt your own perceptions, to make you feel crazy for questioning obvious lies. It's designed to exhaust you too much to think clearly. It's not your fault for falling for it. It's their fault for doing it. She looked at me with red-rimmed eyes and asked, "Does it get better?" I thought about my tiny studio that no one else has keys to, my 2 jobs that feel manageable instead of crushing, my slowly healing body and slowly growing savings account, my night classes and coffee dates with Robert and Wednesday nights with women who understand. Yes, I told her. It gets so much better. Not immediately, not easily, but steadily. Every day you choose yourself over someone who chose to harm you, it gets better. She's texting me now, checking in, asking advice about lawyers and apartments, and how to stay strong when he cries and begs. I remember being her desperate and scared and sure my life was over. I wish I could show her the view from 6 months later, but she has to walk the path herself. All I can do is remind her she's not walking it alone. Tomorrow is Thursday. I have the morning shift at Mel's, then my marketing class, then dinner with Robert. A normal day in my new normal life. No drama, no lies, no exhaustion so complete I can barely stand. Just a woman rebuilding one shift, one class, one carefully guarded moment of happiness at a time. The title of that old self-help book was right. He's just not that into you. But the real revelation is better. When someone shows you through their actions that they see you as a resource to exploit rather than a person to cherish, believe them. Then love yourself enough to leave. I used to think working 3 jobs was the hardest thing I'd ever do, but it wasn't. The hardest thing was accepting that the person I was killing myself to save didn't want to be saved. He wanted to be served. And I was never meant to be anyone's servant. My name is Sylvia. I'm 32 years old. I work 2 jobs by choice, not desperation. I'm nobody's personal slave. I'm nobody's support role. I'm the main character in my own life finally. And despite everything, or maybe because of it, this story is just beginning. When I think back to that day, 6 months ago, standing in our hallway, listening to my husband laugh about how pathetic I was, I remember the pain felt like death, like everything I'd built, everything I'd believed was crumbling to ash. And in a way it was. The woman who would work herself to death for someone who despised her, she did die that day. But from her ashes, I was born, stronger, wiser, and absolutely certain of one thing. I will never again sacrifice my well-being for someone who wouldn't sacrifice their comfort for me. That's not love. That's not partnership. That's exploitation wrapped in pretty words and false promises. Marcus once said I was too old at 32 to start over. He was wrong about that, like he was wrong about so many things. It's never too late to choose yourself. It's never too late to demand better. It's never too late to discover that the love you've been pouring into someone else can be redirected to yourself, where it will actually be appreciated and returned. If you're watching this and you see yourself in my story, if you're working multiple jobs while your partner claims to be trying, if you're exhausted and drained while they seem refreshed and happy, if their words of love don't match their actions of exploitation, please know this: you deserve better. You are not crazy for questioning the situation. You are not weak for having stayed. And you are not alone. The moment you choose to stop being someone's personal slave is the moment your real life begins. It won't be easy. You'll grieve the person you thought they were. You'll rage at the time you lost. You'll fear the unknown future. But on the other side of all that pain is freedom. And freedom, I've learned, is worth any price. My story could have ended differently. I could have worked myself into an early grave, still believing Marcus was trying his best. I could have had a heart attack at 40, a stroke at 45, died at 50, thinking I'd been a good wife. Instead, I'm 32, rebuilding and grateful for every difficult, beautiful day of my new life. Thank you for listening to my story. What would you do if you discovered the person you were sacrificing everything for saw you as nothing more than a personal slave? Have you ever confused exploitation for love? Please share your thoughts in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. Share it with anyone who might need to hear that they deserve better than being someone's secret servant. Remember, real love doesn't deplete you, it replenishes you. Real partnership doesn't exhaust you, it energizes you. And real respect doesn't hide behind closed doors. It stands proud in the light of day. Take care of yourselves, and remember you are nobody's personal slave.